Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to End Times Talk. Lot to talk about today, and I've shown this image many times, but I want to show it again because we're going to be talking a lot about the things that are happening in this picture, and it's interesting how predictive this thing is. And this is what I've always meant by predictive programming. They put it in movies and in TV shows and music and comic books and magazines and all this different stuff, even commercials, even commercials. And it just goes to show that they're telling you what they're going to do to you. They have to. Again, we've talked about that many times on this channel, how it's kind of the legal spiritual law, so to speak, that they have to tell you what they're going to do to you. And looking back, at some of the things that have already happened, we have the Elon Musk Neuralink allowing people to use their minds to play video games. And you have that on the front of this ball just above Donald Trump's head in this picture. You see a controller cord connected to a human brain with an antenna coming out of it and electrodes placed all over the brain. And so that's happened so far. It's obviously the 250-year anniversary of America, and we've seen war break out and lots of missiles launched against Iran. And you could almost consider the boat that's next to the missiles with the sail. I believe those are ancient Persians or Babylonians. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm almost pretty positive that that was there the whole time, that they were going to start this war with Iran, that was a part of things. And not to mention all the uh the robotics, the technological advances in robotics that have happened. And there's a plethora of that in this picture. The ship with the shipping containers, that can absolutely be a tanker that is carrying oil. um, or just shipping goods. And we've seen the Strait of Hormuz get um, blockaded, and Iran pulling that stuff. Obviously, war is breaking out, and it looks like you have Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, and then you have Donald Trump, and then it looks like you have Pam Bondi next to Donald Trump, and that's probably Cash Patel that has the blue vest on. But I'm either that's Netanyahu next to Putin, or that's George Soros. It looks more like George Soros to me. Um, anyways, um, we know that there's the midterm elections coming up, and there's just localized elections and things like that. And there's that dude just beneath Xi Jinping where you have the ballot box and it has the X over the paper. Um, and then the penny, they stopped making the penny. And if you look on that piece of paper that has the two swords crossed over it, the penny is there, and the penny is dropping down the stats. The price of the penny is dropping on that paper. The penny is at the top of it, and it's high up, and then it goes down, then it goes up, and eventually it fizzles off, and they quit making pennies. And this lets you know more hyperinflation is coming. All right. And I notice that another coin, a mystery coin, is being smacked with a hammer, or it could just be a gavel in the platform that the judge, you know, hits when you're in a courtroom. So something big is going to happen in court. Does that have to do with this um, mind control court hearing that's taking place on the 13th which in the community, because see, I'm part of two communities, and I'm part of the Watchman community, even though I don't affiliate with the Watchman community. I want to make that very clear. Um, I am a watchman. I do believe that. And I do believe that this is what God wants me doing in the end times. Another thing that He wants me to do is to expose satanic pedophile death cults. And so they would call that the survivor community. And so I am also a part of the survivor community. And so I hear buzz from both worlds. I know people in both worlds, and I can tell you that there's a lot of buzz about this court hearing that's coming on the 13th. And my boy Gray, that came on the channel just a few days ago, you're going to be seeing him more than likely, if all works out. He'll be on Redacted with Clayton Morris, and there's definitely going to help boost him and organize safety. He needs that tremendously with the fight that he's bringing to the table, because he's actually trying to get some legal stuff done about these high up pedophiles, and they're trying to correlate information across the board to be able to come together against these high up pedophiles that are doing stuff. And so, I work with Gray behind the scenes in my documentaries, and I help him, he helps me. We're two brothers, man, and I couldn't be more thankful to have a brother like him in my life, and also my other friends that I'm very close to, like Laura and John and Lucas and Carrie and Carol and Robert, and I gotta, and if I didn't mention your name, I'm sorry, but there's a bunch of people that I love and care about that I associate with as well when it comes to the Watchmen community, and so I feel like getting to know, Kathy O'Brien and Gray has opened my eyes to some things that are going on in this world that Christians kind of stick their heads in the sand about. They want to pretend that world doesn't exist, because it's a nasty, evil, diabolic world, and it's something people would rather ignore. Instead, I want to fight against that stuff. Um, it takes a toll on me. I'm not going to lie. It's a difficult topic, and I have difficult things coming up that I have to do where, we'll just say that. Yeah, I have difficult things coming up that I have to do for this documentary. And so, anyways, we're looking at this thing, and this econ this picture you're seeing is in the Economist. Okay, it's in the Economist, and it's the cover for their predictions for 2026. And it is an elitist magazine. It is an elitist periodical, that that these kind of images that they come out with, kind of like the Illuminati card game, same concept as the Illuminati card game, same concept as your predictive programming in your movies and your TV shows and things like that. They're putting out there what is going to happen. And it has, I'll be honest with you, I'm quite impressed with how much this picture has held up so far into 2026. And so, um, with that being said, there is a lot of stuff going on. And again, you have this, fist that's handcuffed. I really feel like I've thought for a while that is pertaining to like some form of a lockdown. I think they have a couple of plans. Something I noticed is if they have a plan and then you expose something and you really get it into the limelight and you really remind people what they've said that they're going to do. And when you have cunning people, and it even talks about this in their protocols, when you have cunning people that can undermine the system by shouting from the rooftops, hey, they're planning this, they have to reroute, and sometimes it slows their progress down. I've noticed it happen time and time again. I truly believe that even the smallest of places, the smallest of channels, can throw a monkey wrench into their plans. And so I have believed for some time that the SPARS pandemic scenario document that I've shown many, many times, is an accurate document. I think it's a document for the future. Does it need to happen exactly on the year that it's said to happen? No. Does it need to happen in the months that that it's said that's supposed to happen in that document, the St. Paul acute respiratory syndrome? Does it need to happen? Absolutely not. All right, but there's a plan coming for a pandemic, and I'm telling you that. And even Bill Gates said, "Well, we'll have to prepare for the next one." And I mean, I think I even have the clip. Yeah, right here.
So we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time.
So he's not talking in what ifs, he's talking in absolutes. And what I'm about to show you is pretty important, and I think it lines up with what could be coming around the corner. And I want to break some stuff down after a couple things, but I want to cover a couple things before I get to what I'm talking about today. But he's speaking in an absolute, saying that there's something else coming. And this ball, and you have the World Cup that's going to start on June 11th, right? It's going to start on June 11th, and it's going to go until July 19th, and people from all over the world are going to come to the United States in mass. You're about to see such a huge influx of tourism coming into America that is insane. Like this is bigger than the Olympics. Like the World Cup, I know people get real wrapped up in the Super Bowl here in the Americas. All right, but I'm going to tell you, the World Cup is way bigger, way bigger than what the Super Bowl is to us here in America. We're one country that gets real uppity about actual, what we call football, but what we call soccer everywhere else in the world, and a lot of places will call soccer football. Okay, that is kind of the going rate for other countries. Like that's their football. Like actual, to us, what the NFL is, to them it's FIFA. Okay. And I notice this all over the world, man. Soccer is the biggest thing since sliced bread. All right. And so the amount of fans that FIFA has versus what the amount of fans the NFL has is astronomical. I'm sure you could do a search, but I'm not going to get into it that far. And to be honest with you, I just know there's so many countries involved and love soccer, what we call soccer here in America, that you'd have to be silly to think that NFL has more fans than FIFA. So the World Cup is coming to America in 2026, starting June 11th to July 19th. And the tournament is going to feature 16 different cities across North America. So you're going to have all these fans from all over the world pouring into America from every which way. One, this is going to open shit up for attacks. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to show the clip because I'm in a lot of doo-doo with YouTube right now. Please pray for the channel. But let me tell you right now, all right, in that movie, The Tomorrow War, all right, that has Chris Pratt in it, the beginning of that movie, and I would show it if I could, the beginning of that movie, they show you the World Cup, and it's, and there is a explode, in the movie, it's about a portal opening up and people from the future coming back. But initially, in that movie, you have a stadium where there is a explosion that initiates that portal opening up. And then you have men that come out of this portal in black bloc, what we call black bloc tactical gear, holding guns up. If they're coming back to ask humanity for some help in the past, if they could time travel, why would they be coming out all hot like that? Like, oh, we're going to shoot you in the face, man. Have your guns all up and stuff. Why would you even bring guns like that if it was a diplomacy, situation? So anyways, there's these inclinations of terrorism within that movie that have always stuck out to me. All right, always stuck out to me. And even you could go back to The Dark Knight, and that's football, right? NFL football. But what if? You know what I'm saying? So there's all this stuff about stadiums, and so you have 16 cities: Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City. I got a friend that lives right there in Kansas City, and he's not too happy about the World Cup coming to his town. And then Los Angeles, Miami, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, San Francisco Bay Area, and Seattle. They're also going to go to Guadalajara, Mexico City, and Monterrey in Mexico. And then they're going to go to Toronto and Vancouver in Canada. So the whole entire block for Kingdom 1 that we've talked about, Mexico, America, and Canada, which we could just call Mex-America Canada, right? They're going to be going all over this continent, from all over the world. I mean, this is going to be the busiest shit you ever seen in your entire life. It'll blow your mind how busy those cities are. In the areas around them, the influx, just the influx. They say, and I'm putting a statistic out here, right? And I'm not trying to be vulgar, but they say that the event where in it, because the human trafficking is a problem with this kind of stuff, and I'm trying to give you guys a picture, right? But because of all these different people coming in, they bring in women, and youngsters, I hate to say it, but that stuff's going on. You have them bringing in people, and they say that there are more condoms bought and sold at the World Cup than the Olympics. They say that the World Cup is the most, it brings about a lot of that stuff. A lot of, we'll just say a lot of fornicating going on around the World Cup, if you ask me. And heck, probably some normal stuff, going on between man and wife. Because, it's a pretty emotionally charged and physically charged event. But you have people that are evil, that will prostitute women and children. And there's even men that will prostitute themselves during these events. And so it's a prevalent time for human trafficking. And there's this huge uptick coming in that. Like, I know Trump said just recently there was like so many children found and like 100 and something, people involved in this child sex ring that were just busted recently. Kash Patel come out like yesterday or the day before talking about that. But you want to know, I want to see soldiers on the ground finding the human traffickers that are bringing children to the World Cup. That's what I'd like to see. Anyways, I digress. I'm getting off subject here. But there is a lot of stuff going on all across the board. And, I'm going to talk about it in a moment because I got to switch tracks here. And I try to keep things organized as I go through this stuff so I know what I'm doing. But I got to switch subjects. But I'm going to say that there's this whole boat thing with the hantavirus that's going on. And I want to talk about that for a while here in a moment because it's what's happening is really odd. It's really weird, really strange. And I have a lot of details to share with you. But I want to share with you this, that just on the war front when it comes to Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, all right, it's affecting everything. It's affecting, the gas stations. It's affecting, jet fuel. It's affecting, natural gas. It's affecting everything. All right. And the prices of everything are going up. You're starting to see prices go up on the shelves. You're starting to see your prices go up at the pump. I got friends that are saying, well, it's under $5 here, but it's $5 where I'm at. Last time I checked anyways, you know what I mean? But like the prices were like $4.99 the other day. And so it's like, we're in a situation where it's not getting any better. They say it's open, it's closed, it's open, it's closed. Speaking of the Strait of Hormuz, but the reality is that it's not stopping the damage that's being done. It's not even open close to long enough to stop the damage that's being done. So I'm going to go ahead and play this here. And I just want you to see this airport that Matt Baker is at. This is Matt Baker. And, I can't say I agree with everything that he says, but he does a lot of good reporting. So I'll check him out occasionally. But yeah, so watch this.
All right, I'm here to pick up my dad from the airport, San Diego International Airport.
San Diego International Airport. And I'm going to let him talk for a second, but he's playing the X-Files stuff and the music in the background. So
never seen this airport this empty.
So now that you get the picture, I don't want to play the audio because he's playing that song right now, but like, look at all this. I mean, just completely deserted, only a few people there, and that's San Diego International Airport. I mean, just nobody in sight. And he's there to pick up his dad. That's San Diego, man. That's crazy to me. And it just goes to show how things are being affected. I want to point this out because, I do this from time to time, even on End Times Talk. I make my documentaries and stuff, but I'm not going to not talk about when pedophiles get busted and things like that. And so I want to bring this up, that a Disney cruise ship staffers among 28 arrested. So they're not all from the Disney cruise, but there are people that work for the Disney cruise ship that are part of the staff that are among 28 that have been arrested in a massive child porn operation. And it says that families hoping to make memories on a cruise were unknowingly surrounded by alleged child predators working aboard the ships. According to law enforcement officials, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol or Protection boarded 5 cruise ships, including a Disney cruise docked in San Diego between April 23rd and 25th as part of an ongoing child sexual exploitation material enforcement operation, a CBP spokesman told the California Post. So it was this Disney cruise right here. And once again, Disney's involved in it. Oh, I'll be honest with you. One of the... What I was I've been investigating Grand Rapids, and it's a huge, huge investigation that has unfolded, and I never even thought it was going to be this big. It connects to Jeffrey Epstein, it connects to sex cults, it connects to Pizzagate. I mean, dude, it's insane what I've found, and it's nothing that anybody has put together yet. I'm putting something completely new together, but I want to do it in documentary form, so it's heavy hitting. But I actually had intended, after I did Interlocked, that I was going to do a documentary about Disney, and I was going to go down there and I was going to look at the symbolism and investigate and see what I could find and talk to locals and all that stuff, and make it like a week-long thing. But I'm actually kind of glad that I'm doing what I'm doing, because everybody knows Disney's corrupt. You do not have to be an expert to know that Disney is a part of all the pedophilia stuff that's going on, and there's high up pedophiles that own tons of shares of Disney. There was a pedophile that I was after. His name was actually, I'm not going to say his name, but because he's not a confirmed pedophile, but he's a pedophile. He's a pedophile. But so actually, you know what? I'll just say it. Robert Bass, right? Robert Bass. I was after Robert Bass, and when I was looking into his life, I found out that he had previously owned like a crap ton of shares of Disney, like a ton of them, and then he sold them off, right? And he was a dude that was on a board for the Rockefeller University with Jeffrey Epstein, and he was a part of the board there at Interlochen School for the Arts, and he ain't even from Michigan. And obviously, I forgot to mention in the documentary that Disney donates money to Interlochen, right? So anyways, Disney has tentacles that reach all over the United States. And I won't even get into the vulgar display of subliminal content that Disney puts out in their movies, even the newer ones, what you're letting your children watch. They're being, unfortunately, subversively programmed. And parents hate to hear that, okay? But Disney is dangerous, you know, and I understand if people gotta, you know, unsubscribe because, you know, they're Disney fans, but Disney is absolutely evil, and it's like a mathematic and scientific formula that's put into those movies. And I mean, it's on the scientific military industrial complex level. And I know because I'm a part of this community and I see it. There are people that talk about being abused at both Disney World and Disneyland in Anaheim, California, and Disney World in Orlando, Florida. All right. And Orlando, Florida is a huge trafficking hub, massive, massive. And I'm telling you, it's an evil situation that Disney is doing. And there are tunnels that the victims talk about how they take them down there and they do horrible things to these kids in these tunnels. Even Walt Disney himself, and I know I'm digressing here, but I really don't care. That's my show, right? but even Disney himself, it was said that in his office, he had a door that was a child-sized door. And when you went down there, there were child-sized torture devices. It's also said that Walt Disney could hold a conversation, and this is what I've read, about poop and butts for about a half an hour and not get bored. That's insane to me. That's disgusting and perverse. And he was absolutely a 33rd degree Mason. He was absolutely a part of the military industrial complex. They even have Club 33, where friends of mine have said they've been taken and been abused by high up people like this piece of shit Ted Turner that just died. I hope he rots in hell, because there's little children that he hurt in Club 33 at Walt Disney. So this stuff is all tied in, and it surprises me not that you have people that are working for Disney that are getting arrested on these Disney ships, on these cruises, because this is just another way where they transport children. And they don't need, trust me, they need a lot of children, but they don't need as many children as the public would think, right, in these trafficking organizations and all that stuff. But they need a fresh supply constantly, because unfortunately, a lot of these children don't make it. And I know, dude, trust me, the weight that's on my shoulders, oh my Lord Jesus, take it from me, Lord. Jesus, take the wheel of this thing, Lord, because I can't imagine what the horrors that God knows, the horrors that Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God have to see, what mankind is doing to itself. But just the demons are running rampant, and because iniquity is abounding, the love of many is waxing cold, and people are not out there doing what they need to be doing, not standing up for the children, not standing up for Jesus, man. I'm telling you, you know, that's where God's heart's at, is the children, and spreading his name, you know, spreading the name of Jesus. That's life to me. That's everything. I would rather be homeless in a ditch talking about Jesus and standing up for children than have $1 million or live in a mansion or any of that mumbo jumbo. All right, this is where God wants me, and this is where I'm gonna stay. And I'll tell you, it surprises me not that these things take place, but it just goes to show you that it's ongoing. This isn't something that's stopping, it's ongoing. It says, after boarding the vessels and interviewing 26 suspected crew members from the Philippines, 1 suspected crew member from Portugal, and 1 from Indonesia, officers confirmed all subjects were involved in either the receipt, possession, transportation, distribution, or viewing of child sexually exploitive material or child pornography, the CBP spokesperson said. So, you know, there was also that one Alex Rosen on YouTube. Alex Rosen, or not on YouTube, on X. They wouldn't allow him on YouTube. Alex Rosen just busted a big name TikToker that was buying mass amounts of child porn. So what they do is they'll go in and they'll try to find people that have these files, these downloadable files, and they're purchasing this stuff for, I mean, honestly, like, I'm just disgusted, dude. Like, this dude. Anyways, he had some like 300,000 plus subscribers on TikTok, and this dude is buying child pornography in mass. And so there is just so much happening, and I'm not going to be that channel that doesn't discuss what's happening to the children, because God forbid, man, I stand before the Lord on Judgment Day, and the Lord's like, well, you had a chance to stand up for the children, did you? What are you going to say to that? So I'd rather talk about the difficult subjects that nobody wants to talk about or hear, because they're important to God. They're important to the children who are being hurt all over the world right now. All over the world, there is probably someone right now actively hurting a child or even killing a child. I mean, the population is massive now. And I mean, this is so prevalent. I'm telling you, you know, I noticed because I live in Michigan and I only have a certain area that I can afford to really affect. You know what I mean? And if each and every person took on the child trafficking rings and investing, I'd even help people with a formula on how to do these investigations if they were legitimately going to investigate them and make videos and come out. A lot of people say they're going to go do something. A lot of people say they're going to create a YouTube channel. A lot of people say they're going to get online and do what God's been calling them to do. But a lot of people ain't walking the walk, they're talking the talk. And it's not so easy getting up in front of everybody, and especially talking about these difficult subjects, let me tell you. All right. But there's people that God has called to stand up against these monstrosities, these monsters, these evil people, these satanic pedophile death cults that are all over the place and are tightly ingrained in all of our communities across the board. And if each person in each state, if there'd be a person in each state that had, like, say, a 250-mile radius that they could investigate and just hit everywhere there's a problem. You even so much as smell something that stinks, you jump on that thing. You know what I mean? And you attack, man. And I'm talking through information. You attack through information, and you bring the truth to the light. You bring the darkness to the light is what I'm saying. You bring the truth out. And I'm only one person, and I'm working in Michigan, and I'm doing as much as I can, and I've already exposed a lot. But I'm praying some other godly people will stand up in their own area and go out and actually investigate this stuff. And I'd even be willing to help them for free, as long as they're serious. As long as I see a channel get made and they're already starting to go live and talk about things and talk about what's happening in their communities. I'd help someone with an investigation. I would, if they needed to bounce ideas off me or something. Absolutely, 110%, I would. But nobody's doing it. There's only a few. And leave it up to the people who have been abused to do the investigating for the abused, right? None of those other people, all these tough men. Oh, yeah, I'm tough, man. I gotta wear muscle shirts, bro. Got lots of tattoos, bro. I'm gonna protect my women and my children, man. You ain't coming to my house. I'll shoot you in the, you know what I mean? Like, that, you gotta get these dudes that act tough, but I don't see no tough dudes out there. I don't see no tough dudes out there. Like, there's a handful of men. It's mainly women that are standing up against this shit, and the men are just kind of standing back, like, yeah, I don't know about that, man. It's just weird. Like, dude, where are the men of valor and the strong, soldiers of God that are ready to stand up against evil? I ain't seen very many of them. There's a few, absolutely, there's a few, but I have not seen very many of them. I had a chance to, and I asked basically, we'll say 10 different YouTubers, hey, have me on, let's talk about this. And no, not here, man, not here. And most of them, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, the thing is that there's just a handful of people that God can use to do this really difficult work, and God gives his most difficult battles to his toughest and strongest soldiers. And I don't even consider myself a tough or strong person. I do whatever I had to do to protect my family, but I consider myself a person that has seen, like I said, it's no secret that I was born into a Northern Californian cult, and I have an extreme displeasure towards people who hurt innocent people and hurt children, especially from these groups that have this agenda for people. There's some YouTube cults out there too, let me tell you. And yes, of the Watchmen community kind as well. Yeah, I went there, and I don't care who gets mad at me. But I'll tell you right now, there's some straight up cults going on out there. And anyways, this stuff is so prevalent. It's all across the board, and I wanted to mention this because, I want to encourage people to do something about it. If you see something, say something, and God will use you. He will. So moving on here. Give me a second. So we have this post from Fox News. Hold on, let me get a drink of water here. So they're saying, not exactly, they don't exactly know. And that's a fishy part in and of itself to me, is that there's no real clear idea of how many passengers we'll say got loose, right? But they're saying almost 40, but nobody can agree. The Colombian government, or I think is what it was, or the World Health Organization and things like that. They're all saying different numbers. They can't get their story straight. And it's like you remember the monkeys that got loosed in West Virginia? There was like 6 monkeys that got loose, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, it was 5 or something like that. There was something about it, but I think they made it to where the monkeys that did get loose and stayed loose, they covered their own butts, for the sake of covering their own keister. They lie to the citizens and say, oh well, there's this many, but really it's this many. So they can't get their story straight. So just putting that out there at first before I get any further into this. And I have a lot to say about this because there's a lot of fishy crap about this thing. But it says nearly 40 cruise passengers exposed to deadly virus may have already scattered across the globe as authorities scramble to track them down. Dozens left the MV Hondias ship without contact tracing after a hantavirus outbreak that's already killed at least 3 people. Now, I'll tell you right now, they're saying that there might be more people that have been confirmed infected, but I'll get there. The World Health Organization warns that while human-to-human transfer is uncommon, it's still possible. You want to know why it's possible? You want to know what they're not telling you right here? And it's funny, Fox News doesn't give you details like this. This is the Andes strain. There's 2 different strains that I know of that are the hantavirus. And one's from a specific area and another one's from another specific area. And they're common in those specific areas. There is a yearly, rate in which people catch this shit. Or excuse my language today. I'm sorry. I've had an off day. It's been rough. So please forgive me, Lord, for cussing. Anyways, so the World Health Organization warns that human-to-human transfer is uncommon. It's still possible. Yeah, because it's the Andes strain, and the Andes strain is actually the one that is transferable from human to human, and it's the only type that's transferable from human to human. So let me put that out there. All right. So this is human to human transmissible. Okay. They're saying it's uncommon, but there's a lot of lies as I've been digging into this thing. There's a lot of lies I'm coming across, and a lot of stuff where it just seems like they're not giving you the whole truth. And that is a red flag to me. You know what I mean? Health agencies are now racing to locate passengers across multiple continents before more cases emerge. So there's 12 countries that are that have at least one of these 40 and up to 40 individuals in it. All right, and I'll give a list of these countries in a little bit. I want to show you this though. Hold on. So I do not condone the occult or anything like that, but I do believe that the occult gives them, their people, little triggers and things like that. They did the same thing with the Nipah virus. I think this has to do more with AI than anything, but I want to share with you this because it's strange. to say the least. But there's this cat called Soothsayer, and you can see a Baphomet, like a Hindu Baphomet, as his profile picture, and then there's occult symbolism. The all-seeing eye. This would be the Egyptian version of the all-seeing eye, the eye of Horus, the eye of the Antichrist. Okay, this is what that represents. The peace symbol represents the broken cross. It says turn peace up, so anti-Christian. The Star of Venus. This would be what is known as the Star of Remphan. That's spoken of in the Bible, not the David Star, but this one. You have an 8-pointed star. That would be the Star of Venus. And then you have obviously the anchor, which is its own even Masonic symbolism. Now, all right, if you go down here, let me see if this shows up. You have right here at the top, Soothsayer has said Corona ended in 2023, and in 2026, hantavirus. So this person, if you notice the date, is 2022. And so how would they know that in 2026 the hantavirus was a thing? I think this is that AI, what we're talking about, AI, quantum computing, predicting the future and changing things in real time. I think these sort of what I believe to be bot accounts are the ability for their people to look like they're actively predicting the future. Okay, if it was to take place, not saying that it's going to, just putting out there. I think that's extremely strange, and there's the definite occult nature of that X account, and the information on it. So with that being said, I think that there's people, and I'm just reading a post here, and I think it makes some good points. I don't know if I agree with the beginning statement, but he's saying, and this is a pretty popular account, but I'm just kind of watching myself here. He says, I think they're planning on another pandemic before the elections. They're saying since COVID, there have been a few scenarios where a new scary virus came out and we were all like, here we go again, but eventually ended up dead in the water. Kind of like the Nipah virus and this, pneumonia or whatever that was going on last year. All I know is the reason I continually bring this stuff up is because I know the elite are planning another virus. And I don't jump on all the bandwagons when these things happen. I look at things like, okay, this is strange. There's strange occurrences taking place in this. And I'm going to share those strange occurrences with you today about this hantavirus. And I think you're going to be pretty shocked as to what we're going to be discussing today. Now, this person says, now the hantavirus thing happened, and I originally thought the same thing, but now I'm seeing the very same playbook playing out exactly as it did with COVID. They're saying on April 6th, 2026, a 70-year-old Dutch passenger gets sick, fever, headache, stomach issues. And I want to say this right now, that he would be symptomatic at that point. This is the time when you're kind of most contagious, for the most part. And you would think that he'd be in his room away from people. That's going to come in later. All right. I'm going to say some things later, but I want you to remember that I said that. All right. And, he's aboard this boat, the ship, the MV Hondias. And he, on April 11th, 5 days later, he died. He dies on board. On April 12th through the 24th, the MV Hondias ship stopped at St. Helena, and the man's wife and she takes his body, and there's about 29 to 40 other passengers. Listen to this. Listen to this crap. This is a totally against protocol. All right. But there's 29 to 40 other passengers that disembark and fly home. So not only are they brushing shoulders with everybody in the airports, all right, and people that are going to be working here in the next month or so, flying people around to the World Cup that's going to be in America, right? Just putting that out there. And the wife later collapsed in Johannesburg in Germany and died. And they were both, her and her husband were confirmed to have hantavirus. There's also, in mid to late April, 2 more passengers, a British man and a German woman, fell ill. The British man was evacuated critically ill, and the German woman died on May 2nd. Well, if she was critically ill, then why'd she die on the boat when the other guy got evacuated? Doesn't make sense. So many things don't make sense with this. In early May, the ship's doctor got very sick and was evacuated. And then the more people on board this ship, there's about, we'll just say roughly 150 people aboard this ship. There's more of those people that start to show symptoms. All right. And the tests confirmed that it's the Andes strain of the hantavirus. And this is the only strain that can spread person to person. Okay. And I guess you have to be in pretty close proximity. Like we're talking, intimacy or drinking after somebody, or, it's not just, from what I understand, you can't just be standing right next to somebody. But that perplexes me because later on they tell you that, in different articles and stuff like that, they're talking about how, it could have been in the dining area where this dude was the most symptomatic and he was shedding hard and he had like a huge viral load to shed or whatever. You see the lingo there, right? But they say you can be within 1 to 4 feet of people and get this thing. But then they say it's not aerosolized. It's not like in the air or droplets or anything like that, like coronavirus or the flu or things like that. But what they're saying is one thing and what's happening is another. So these people, they get sick and all of a sudden they just start hanging out around everybody. The incubation period for this thing is 1 to 2 weeks. And if this dude gets on and relatively quickly right off the bat, him and his wife fall ill, wouldn't you think that they'd be in their room instead of out and about around all the other people, unless they are completely ignorant? And it could be that's the case. And now as of May 7th, today, all right, they're saying that there's 7 to 8 cases. I count 8 cases total on the ship. Now, what they're not telling you is, and this is the big thing, what they're not telling you is that in Argentina, where the original man that died first was from, it was said that on a bird, viewing expedition, there was they say that this hantavirus can only come from rodents. I don't know about that. All right. They say it has to come from the saliva or the piss or, something like that from rodents. I don't know anybody drinking rat pee. All right. I'm going to be honest with you there. And I don't know anybody kissing rats. So could we argue? Yeah, we could argue. You know what I mean? And I guess, food could be tainted or whatever and have rat urine on it or whatever. But it's said, what I was able to discover is that this dude got sick from, and it was traced back to this bird viewing expedition thing. So is this out in the open, or was this in some kind of enclosure where all these birds are at and you could just look around easy peasy and find all the birds you want to see or whatever? I get it. Bird watching's awesome. I love bird watching, but it's just a strange thing to say that you'd come into contact with a rodent. I tend to believe, and I'm going to put it out there, that ticks could carry the hantavirus. This is not confirmed, but ticks have saliva too. And what if something was genetically modified? I'm just putting it out there because we know that there was all these ticks that were dumped out all over the place, all across America. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But it's just strange that they're saying it's this specific situation, from what I can gather. No, well, I'm not speaking in 100%. I know 100% right here, but from what I can gather, that's what they say the origins of this thing are. All right. And then he gets on board a ship. I mean, weren't you feeling sick before you got on the ship? And again, when you're feeling sick on the ship, he's going to go back to his room and it would be like an isolation thing. Doesn't want to get everybody else sick. And then the wife would be there taking care of him. She died. She succumbed and died later on to this thing. So why all of a sudden all these people all on the ship getting sick? And there's like 150 people, and then obviously plus workers and things like that. Hold on a moment. So plus staff, so there's, there could be probably, 200 people on that ship. And so they take a quarter of that ship almost, or if we were just to talk about just the people that, are the customers, right? And they allow 40 people to leave the ship. We'll speak in the max, like they leave 40 people. Dude, that's almost a third of that, the people that are there paying to be aboard that ship. So, and then they all went willy-nilly through all the airports, and they flew home and stopped through however many places and sat next to however many people. And there was no contact tracing. Those people, excuse me, those people should have been transported elsewhere, by we'll say I don't know, the CDC or something, to take care of them, because they're monitoring people for quite a while. This isn't something that just, happens, fast. So they're watching these people, and to my knowledge, this ship has not docked anywhere. And so it's just strange that in, this picture, there's 2 vaccines, right? And this is why I'm even really getting into it, is because this picture's been pretty accurate. I'll give it to him. I'll hand it to him. But there's these 2 vaccines, the one to the bottom right and the one to the bottom left. And it's a soccer ball being kicked by a soccer player, the whole picture. And does this have to deal with the World Cup as well? Is something going to happen while the World Cup is in America or Mexico or Canada? I mean, and here's the thing with this happening, and these so many people flying home. I mean, you want to know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that movie 12 Monkeys. You ever seen 12 Monkeys, for crying out loud? I don't know if you ever seen 12 Monkeys, but man, it's all about a dude coming through an airport, bringing some nasty crap through. So I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm kind of on guard about it. Yeah, it's just weird that this is happening at this time. And I get it. The hantavirus is something a little different, and it's not like the flu season or nothing like that. But just again, the middle of summer, and again, all these ticks. The incubation period for the 2 different strains, the HPS and the HFRS. The one for HPS is 1 to 8 weeks incubation period, and this is the one most common in the Western Hemisphere. And the other one that I'm talking about, the incubation period is often 1 to 2 weeks, but can be up to 8 weeks in rare cases. If they modified it to release slowly. Now listen to this. that in early infection, you can test negative for the hantavirus, and they're saying that the diagnosis can be challenging because like early symptoms mimic the flu or COVID or other illnesses. And serological tests may not detect the antibodies right away. And so the CDC says that testing is difficult if done very early within the first few days of symptoms. So there you go, symptoms. And they often recommend repeat testing 72 hours after symptoms start if the initial result is negative or inconclusive. So these people could be walking around asymptomatic, not feeling nothing. I'm hunky dory, A-OK, spreading this thing all over God's green earth. And what they're not telling you right now is that, and here's the big one. Here's a big one right here, is that this thing came from Argentina. This couple or whatever supposedly came from Argentina, from where they were like doing something in Argentina, I guess, because I think they're from Germany. But anyways, it said that Argentina is the area where this dude picked up the hantavirus, right? And what's interesting about Argentina is that yearly they have about 50 to 80 hantavirus sicknesses a year, right? It's double that right now. It's literally double that right now. And their season that they have for this hantavirus to be a thing hasn't even begun for this year. There's like a season where it's worse, I guess. And they're a month ahead of that. And it's already double what it's supposed to be. So it's just really strange. I'm not saying that the hantavirus is going to be the big one, but I'll tell you right now, the big one's coming. I don't know if it's going to be while we're still here. I don't know if it's going to be, a day from now or a year from now or whatever. But I can tell you, most definitely, the elite have another pandemic coming. And I'm just trying to look at this proactively here, but they're saying that there's 151 people that are sick right now in the area where this dude got this. And 50 of them have just come down sick in just the past couple of months there in Argentina. Want to know what else Argentina has? Argentina is on the 33rd parallel. There's that number 33. And there's specific places in Argentina where you get that 333. Anyways, I don't know if that means anything, right? Just throwing that out there. I just find it interesting. If this was to be something, there is strange origins to this thing, absolutely. I pray it comes to nothing. But what worries me more is that there's been this release of ticks all across the board, And so I am going to be talking about that in a little bit. Sorry, I'm going through some information real quick here. And the hantavirus, originated over in the continent of Asia. And so, again, you have this idea that, this could be some genetically modified stuff, even though it goes way back. It's interesting that this is happening like this. They're saying 8 cases overall, but there's more people that have symptoms but have not tested positive. I don't think that they're allowing this boat to dock either. And so they say that, household contact can cause transmission like shared living spaces, intimate or sexual contact, caregiving or direct exposure to bodily fluids, sharing food, utensils, or close dining, prolonged proximity in enclosed spaces. Well, that's an airport. You sent them flying. That's ridiculous. And from different events that have happened in the past, an asymptomatic person at a birthday party infected others seated nearby or with brief but close interactions. So it doesn't even take that much to get it. They're making it sound like, it's really hard to get this thing. It's very uncommon. But when it's not being contact traced as to who has it, then it could be a thing. Now, I don't know what this thing actually is. Some people don't believe in viruses. Some people do. I don't know what I believe about it, but it's strange nonetheless. Give me a second here. Still looking through some stuff. Yeah, again, close prolonged contact with symptomatic individuals, exposure to body fluids, saliva, respiratory secretions, blood via deep kissing, caregiving, sharing a bed, cabin, or intimate contact. So it doesn't mean that this is a thing. It just means that things are brewing right now. And again, the reports vary slightly between the operator on the ship and the Dutch officials. And so the operator on the ship is saying that there were 40 people that got off, that dispersed to 12 different countries without full contact tracing. And now in multiple countries, they're actively tracing and monitoring them. The 12 countries that these guys went to are Canada. Hold on, let me get a drink here. Hold on. The 12 countries are Canada, Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, New Zealand, Switzerland, Sweden, Singapore, St. Kitts and Nevis, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the United States, plus 2 passengers of unknown nationality. And it's just crazy to me. So the United States has multiple people on this ship, and I'm just speaking from a United States perspective here, obviously. But I guess there was quite a few people that out of everybody on the ship were from the United States. So there's that. Hold on a second. I'm looking through some stuff here. They're saying it hasn't mutated at all. But of course, even if it did, they're not going to just, tell you. And, they obviously, the ticks, and something that's just on my mind is those ticks, man. They transmit a wide range of problems, like bacteria, viruses, parasites, bacterial like Lyme disease, anaplasmosis, and ehrlichiosis. I'm sorry, I can't say that. Rocky Mountain spotted fever, tularemia, Borrelia miyamotoi disease, southern tick associated rash illness, hard tick relapsing fever, Powassan virus disease, Colorado tick fever, Heartland virus, Bourbon virus, tick-borne encephalitis, babesiosis, parasites, those are parasites, alpha-gal syndrome parasites, and tick paralysis. They're saying toxins in the tick saliva can cause temporary paralysis. And it's interesting right here that a tick can have Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. And they've had this obviously in the Congo, but there was that one case. And they also can have Mediterranean spotted fever and Q fever and various relapsing fevers and rickettsial diseases in other regions. So ticks can carry a plethora of issues. But that Crimean Congo stands out to me because in Hamilton, Montana, at Rocky Mountain Laboratories, and I have a friend who has a family member that works there. And my friend used to work there at Rocky Mountain Laboratories as security. There was an incident that occurred around November 3rd, and a single lab employee researcher had exposure to Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever virus due to an accidental breach of personal protective equipment while working with the virus. So you're working with that virus. A tick can carry it. I don't know. I'm not saying it's anything. I'm just pointing out some stuff. Like what I'm really trying to show people is that all across the board, there's all these things, like say a car is come down an embankment, is getting ready to fall off a cliff, and it's like teetering on the edge. Like that's where I feel like we're at right now. I know something big's coming. We know the car is going to go over the edge, but it's like, when is that going to happen? There's this teetering back and forth happening between, order and chaos. And we know that they have to bring about chaos to bring forth their new world order. So just really strange stuff. And I don't know if a tick's saliva can be infected with hantavirus. There's not really any established evidence for that or anything like that. But I'm just, spitballing here and saying, dude, if ticks can carry all that, what else can they carry? And it seems like they're pretty sturdy little critters. Let me tell you. Give me a moment here. And again, on Fox News, they're playing it down already. And they're saying the World Health Organization is trying to ease global concerns about the recent hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship, drawing comparisons to the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's what people are noticing, is that there's a lot of comparisons to the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic that are happening here that's making people on edge. And I understand, dude, we went through a lot. I don't care if you got COVID. I don't care if you didn't got COVID. I don't care if you're anti this or pro this. What I'm saying is everybody was affected in some way during that moment in time. All right. Everybody got affected by this thing, during the first pandemic. And so people remember that just like, yesterday, and they're not forgetting it. And they're saying, hey, there's a lot of parallels to what happened in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic versus what's happening right now. And Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove clarifies that the newly identified hantavirus, now it's not newly identified. It is, but it's a new pocket, I guess. I guess that could play into that. Newly identified hantavirus is vastly different from the coronavirus, is what they're saying. This is not coronavirus. This is a very different virus. We know this virus. Hantaviruses have been around for quite a while. This is not the start of a COVID pandemic. This is an outbreak that we see on a ship. There's a confined area. We have 5 confirmed cases so far. What's interesting to me is that when we had that whole Nipah virus thing that was going on, that we were looking at, there were some strange things with that too. I think when we come out and we say stuff, AI picks up on those things that are being said across the board, and they choose whether they want to follow through with something or not. And I think because people covered it, you know what I mean? So I'm hoping if we're covering it now, the Lord will hold back the floodgates on this nasty stuff that they got prepared for the world. But I'll tell you, that Nipah virus, they didn't even come out with and say stuff like this. You know, they didn't have it to where they're like, oh, this ain't nothing. Don't worry about it. This isn't coronavirus. Blah, 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 blah. You know, and I'll even play this 24-second clip, but I want to say that they didn't come out like this for the Nipah virus that was just going on not that long ago. Relatively small pocket like this here. There was even a little bit of a spread that happened with that Nipah virus, and they didn't make as big a deal as to come out and say, and to try to quell the public and say, hey, look, you know, don't worry about this. Go back to sleep. All right. So listen to this.
This is not coronavirus. This is a very different virus. We know this virus. Hantaviruses have been around for quite a while. There's a lot of detail that we know. I'm going to ask Anais to come in and say this, but I want to be unequivocal here. This is not SARS-CoV-2. This is not the start of a COVID pandemic. This is an outbreak that we see on a ship. There's a confined area. We have 5 confirmed cases so far.
We have 8 confirmed cases so far.
This is not coronavirus. This is a very different virus.
So, you know, they didn't come out like that during the Nipah stuff that happened not too long ago during the spring. And I was watching. I'm always watching. You know, there was a nice lady that sent me you know, and kind of, you know, she emailed me and she said, you know, Josh, you were right. Something's brewing. And I can't say that I'm right. And I'm not trying to call anything specifically. I'm not trying to be a prophet of horrible bad news. That's you know, I wouldn't want to be a prophet. Even if, I mean, that's a heavy duty position to be in. I wouldn't want to be there, but I know their game plan, and a pandemic is in their game plan. And they're not done with it with just, you know, COVID-19 or what was previously the coronavirus, you know, and the Bible tells us there's going to be pestilence. There's going to be these things that pop up and this stuff that's happening. And COVID-19 was one of those pestilences. And, you know, just showing us that we're in the beginning of sorrows. These things are taking place. This is stuff that has to happen leading us, you know, up to the great tribulation, and so we know we're going home soon because all this stuff happening. Do we know when? No, we don't. But you know what? We'll get through it just fine. We're in this together. We're in it to win it. You know, we're not backing down. We're not surrendering. We're not giving up. We're not laying down. All right. I've just begun to do what I need to do. You know, I got a whole lot of fight left in me, and I know my audience, if they can, you know, deal with me and deal with my level of crazy, man, you got a lot of fight left in you too. And there's a reason that you're here. So, but you know, so they're putting this out there, and I wanted to comment on that. Now let me bring this up here again. And time is reporting on this now, and this was today, early this morning. What countries are linked to the hantavirus outbreak? An outbreak of the rare but highly deadly hantavirus on a cruise ship is causing international alarm as authorities scramble to trace who may have been exposed in a bid to curb its spread. There's that curb its spread, right? The World Health Organization says that to date that there are 8 cases of hantavirus infection linked to the MV Hondius, which is currently, and so there could be more. If this is a thing, if they've released something in Argentina or whatever, okay. But it says, which is currently en route to the Canary Islands, this ship. So as of today, it's still out on the water, and it's on its way to the Canary Islands. 3 passengers who boarded the Hondius have died, one of whom was confirmed infected. The wife was confirmed infected too. Both of them died. Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, sorry about that. The WHO's Director General has said that the overall public health risk from hantavirus remains low, and officials have dismissed the concern of hantavirus becoming a global pandemic threat like COVID-19. So they're saying it's not going to happen. All right. But investigations continue as the situation grows complex. Nearly 150 passengers and crew members from 23 different nationalities are still on board the ship, with several reportedly disembarking before news of the outbreak emerged. So you had, again, about 40 of them. They're going to say a different number, but there's around 40 of them. Health authorities also confirmed that the hantavirus involved in the outbreak is the Andes strain, the only known strain transmissible between people, and has been linked to infections with higher mortality, which they say it has about a 33% kill rate. And there's that 33 number again. Argentina's on the 33rd parallel, and you have the kill rate on the hantavirus is the number 33. All right, so just putting that out there. Then MV Hondius departed Ushuaia, a city in southern Argentina. That's where that one dude boarded. They were doing something in Argentina on April 1st. One person on board the ship was an Argentine national. Hantavirus is endemic in Argentina, but infections in the country are on the rise. There you go. The Argentine Health Ministry on Tuesday reported 101 hantavirus infections since June 2025. So since June of last year, there's been 101 infections, which is roughly double the caseload recorded over the same period the previous year, per the Associated Press. While the source of the outbreak hasn't been determined, the Argentine government has looked into whether the infection stemmed from the country. The AP reported, citing two unidentified investigators, that 2 of the 3 deaths involving a married Dutch couple, so yeah, from Germany or whatever, may have ties to Ushuaia, with officials speculating that the couple contracted the virus during a bird watching outing in the city that brought them to a landfill where they could have been exposed. So it was a landfill where maybe there was rats, and yeah, that makes more sense. Not in the woods. Hold on one moment, getting a drink. So in Cabo Verde, the ship intended to dock at the West African archipelagic nation of Cabo Verde, but local authorities denied it from doing so, and the MV Hondius was anchored off the country's coast for 3 days. Before setting sail for the Canary Islands on May 6, 3 people on board the Hondius were evacuated to the Netherlands via medical aircraft for screening and treatment. Germany, as of May 4, there were 8 reported German nationals on the MV Hondius, including 1 crew member. Among them was a female passenger who passed after falling ill. An asymptomatic German was evacuated on May 6th and will reportedly be brought to a hospital in Dusseldorf for testing after having contact with the German who died. The Netherlands, the MV Hondius, is the Dutch flagship operated by Oceanwide Expeditions. I mean, this is a lot to read, but I'm going to go through it. It's almost halfway done. The Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a Wednesday blog post that with the ship sailing under the country's flag, the Netherlands is coordinating assistance to those on board, according to the operator. 13 people on the ship are Dutch, 8 passengers, and 5 crew members. 2 Dutch nationals, husband and wife, are among the 3 reported deaths from the Hondius. The woman who died in South Africa tested positive for hantavirus. So her and her husband passed away from this thing. On May 5th, Dutch health authorities informed the country's flag carrier, KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, that the woman had briefly been on board their aircraft in Johannesburg on April 25th, and in response, the airline also informed passengers aboard the Netherlands-bound flight. So even the passengers, yeah. So anyways, just, man, it's crazy how this stuff can spread because of the way, we're running to and fro across the planet. Also among the evacuees on May 6 was a 41-year-old Dutch national who was reportedly a crew member. The Philippines, the MV Hondius crew, has 38 Filipinos, but a spokesperson and undersecretary for the Philippines Health Department said on May 5th that none are presently ill and that they are in close coordination with the concerned authorities. Singapore, the Southeast Asian city-state, announced on Thursday that it had isolated and is monitoring 2 of its residents who were aboard MV Hondius in its government facility. Singapore's Communicable Diseases Agency said it was notified on May 4th and May 5th that the 2 residents, aged 67 and 65, were on the ship when it departed Ushuaia in Argentina on April 1st. Both disembarked early and were on the same Johannesburg-bound flight as one of the confirmed hantavirus cases on April 25th. So the same one Anyways, oh wait, no, yeah. Anyways, sorry, I'm getting mixed up here. All right, it says one has a runny nose but is otherwise well, and the other is asymptomatic. The agency said of the isolated residents, but they're not isolated. They were on a flight, and all those people on that flight, and how far did those people get? The 2 individuals' test results are pending, but the Singaporean agency says the risk to the general public in Singapore is currently, there's the word currently, low. South Africa, the Dutch woman who died in South Africa first flew in from St. Helena, a British territory near the country. Okay, so who'd you come into contact with in St. Helena? You know what I mean? Like, it's not just the people on this ship. The World Health Organization said that she deteriorated during her flight to Johannesburg. Oh, so the same flight that the Singaporeans were on? Yeah, that sounds real healthy. According to the South African, and I'm not trying to be insensitive here. According to the South African media, she collapsed at the OR Tambo International Airport. So at the airport, she collapsed. So she's at the airport. She's hanging out in an international airport. And then she died in the hospital on April 26th. When she was confirmed infected with hantavirus, South African health officials began contact tracing efforts. So when was she confirmed to have the hantavirus? It doesn't say when she was confirmed to have the hantavirus. So was that after April 26th? Like she died and then they tested her? And then she come into contact with however many people on her trip to that ship and then from the ship? It says when she was confirmed infected with hantavirus, South African officials began contact tracing efforts. So only then? So there was a whole time frame where all these other people that come into contact with her could get into contact with other people, and then those people. Then, do you see what I'm saying? I'm just saying it's been handled piss poor at minimum. At minimum, South African health officials began contact tracing efforts. More than 60 people have been identified. So more than 60 people have been identified. What about the ones that aren't identified? And those successfully contacted are being monitored. So there's some you haven't even successfully contacted, and we're not talking patient 0, but we're talking patient 2. Are you kidding me? You're probably right, Robert Dawson. You're probably right. And it's just really weird. It's just really weird. So they're using terminology like those who were successfully contacted, and more than 60 people have been identified, but you didn't say how many people she come into contact with as a whole. And how can you remember all that? So this thing you can't control this thing. If it is spreading, it's out of control already, is what it sounds like to me. If it is going to spread, well, it's a problem already. I promise you that. If she was so transmissible that she even stands next to somebody and coughs and they get this crap, then that just goes to show how out of control this thing is. In Spain, 13 passengers and a crew member are aboard the MV Hondias are Spanish. According to the country's health ministry, the WHO requested that Spain accept the MV Hondias and the Canary Islands, a Spanish territory, in accordance with international law and humanitarian principles. The ministry said that the country has a moral and legal obligation to assist these people, among whom are several Spanish citizens. MV Hondias is expected to dock in the Canary Islands in 3 to 4 days. So they ain't even there yet. And this thing's just incubating and cooking on this thing, man. Dude he came, he spread, he went, and then this thing's just sitting there and cooking like a Dutch oven in the middle of the sea or the ocean right now. Goodness gracious, give me a break. It says right here, saying he will not allow passengers to disembark, citing potential dangers to the local population. So they're going to isolate them. Switzerland, the Swiss Federal Office of Public Health announced on May 6th that a man who was on the MV Hondias was infected with the hantavirus and was being treated at the University Hospital Zurich. The patient, who returned to Switzerland after traveling on the cruise ship, tested positive for the Andes strain. His wife, who accompanied him on the trip, has not yet shown any symptoms, but is self-isolating as a precaution. So the dude tested positive. United Kingdom, according to Oceanwide Expeditions on May 4th, 19 passengers and 4 crew members on the ship were from Great Britain. A British passenger who presented a high fever, shortness of breath, and signs of pneumonia was evacuated from Ascension Island to South Africa on April 27th, according to the WHO, the World Health Organization. The passenger was confirmed to have the virus and is in intensive care, so he's on the ICU. Great, just great. And that's just, I mean, this thing is so spread out, dude. It's so spread out. It's like they're dropping this thing like bombs all over the place, and that's if the place they're dropping it to knows how to handle the situation properly. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Back in the day, you know, I used to not be that great of a person, and I used to grow weed. I ain't gonna lie. And when I was growing, it was illegal. And I'll tell you right now, it was interesting because, like, I was told by an old guy one time, he says, every person that you tell is a 10% chance of getting caught. So you tell 10 people, you more than likely are going to get busted, right? And I hate to use that as a metaphor, but so you got a bunch of people from 12 different countries that are spreading out, and we'll say every single one is a 10%, we'll just say a 10% chance of, you know, a pandemic starting, and they're dropping this thing all over the place. You kind of see what I'm saying, how this was really handled really piss poor, and this could be a serious situation. I'm not playing it down, but I'm not going to say this is the end of the world, run for the hills, okay? But I'm saying we need to be watching this and paying attention, all right? And keeping our hands clean. Don't touch your face while you're out, crap like that, right? It says here, another British national suspected of an infection. A crew member was among those evacuated from the ship on May 6th. So a bunch of sick people, man. So they got sick. They didn't. Here's the thing. They make it sound like, oh, there was just 40 people. They weren't feeling it. They're like, this is whack. I ain't feeling this. And we're just gonna leave. Come on, Jan, we're getting out of here. I don't like this. This is a problem coming. And everybody else just stays behind. And oh yeah, good to see you. Thanks. You know, I'm gonna go finish enjoying my cruise. But what they don't tell you is that the majority of these people that left were already sick. And they got a 33% chance of dying. So, you know, and who did they come into? And they didn't even know it was this at first. And these dudes get spread all over. I mean, it's like a pinata exploded or something of hantavirus. I mean, it's everywhere, right? Now they're saying in the United States, it says right here, 2 others have been self-isolating after leaving the cruise ship when it made a stop at St. Helena. So there are a bunch of people getting off. All right. Anyways, it says here in the United States, 17 of the MV Hondius passengers are from the United States. The New York Times reported that authorities in at least 3 states, Arizona, Georgia, and California, so pay attention to those 3 states, Arizona, Georgia, and California, are monitoring previous passengers of the ship, and none have shown symptoms. But remember, you can go 8 weeks with no symptoms. It takes 8 weeks, up to 8 weeks, to incubate the Andes strain of the hantavirus. And it says from starting its monitoring in 1993 until 2023, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has detected 890 cases of hantavirus in the country, of which 35% resulted in death. So it's got about a 35% kill rate. Other passengers above the MV Hondius hail from Australia, Belgium, Canada, France, Greece, Guatemala, India, Ireland, Japan, Montenegro, New Zealand, Portland, Portugal, Russia, Turkey, and Ukraine. All of them are asymptomatic to date, and the Spanish Health Ministry said that when the ship docks in the Canary Islands, the non-Spanish citizens will be repatriated to their countries. So they're all going to be sent to their own countries. So I don't know about you, but that ain't looking so good to me. And I'm just going to kind of go through this. This guy, I'm going to play this here. Hold on.
I'm out here.
So this guy's going mushroom hunting, and look what he finds.
I'm out here mushroom hunting, and I found, there it is right there, the tick box. I'm not going to touch it because there's ticks all over that thing. I know there is. Look at them crawling out of it.
Here, I'm going to slow it down, but look at them all crawling out of that thing. Tons of ticks. And it's a metal box. It's like they were made, it was made to drop it, and it was made for them to be able to crawl out those little slits in the box. And they do. They're in there, and then they crawled right out. You can watch them. That's disgusting. And so I want to give you fair warning here. And that there's some graphic content that I'm about to show you. If you are an animal lover, and I am an animal lover myself, but I have to show you what's going on. All right. But these animals are unalived. They're not alive anymore. All right. But all over the place, and not to mention Bill Gates has funded research into genetically engineered cattle ticks. And, you know, they're talking about the red meat allergies, but I'm talking about all the stuff that can be spread by this. I guess these boxes are being found all over the place. All right. And so with that being said, you know, what I'm going to show you next is a little sad and disturbing, to say the least, because it has to do with animals and these ticks. So just giving you fair warning. So I'm bringing it up now. If you want to shut off the live, I understand. But so this deer is completely covered in ticks, and it's the deer is deceased, but just completely covered in ticks. They are everywhere. And everywhere I'm hearing in Michigan, that where I know people, and I don't know a lot of people across the board that, you know, are that's, you know, I'll be honest with you, like, I get it that people want to go be with Jesus, but to put yourself in harm's way when God could use you, I just don't agree with that. It seems like, you know, I get it. Like, dude, I'm worn out too. Everybody wants to go home, but, you know, anybody talking like that in the live chat, you know, the next time are going to be blocked. We're not going to talk like, you know, oh, just kill me and take me out. Like that's not going to happen, you know. Anyways, and honestly, you're going to go through a lot of horrible crap before you'd ever die from a tick bite. So there's that. Yeah, I mean, everybody I know in Michigan is saying that the ticks are absolutely unreal in Michigan right now. Like absolutely unreal. Hold on a second here.
15 minutes taken.
This dude is got a ton of ticks all over him. Here, I'll just play this.
These ticks off my clothes.
Pardon my ignorance. What is the disease you described? The other one, rickettsia.
So it's a rickettsia. It is the same organism that causes Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and that's the most deadly tick-borne disease in the United States. It also was a germ that was being weaponized by the U.S. military at the time, and they tried to stuff it in ticks. I mean, so what is tick weaponization? So in the interviews with Willie, what he said was, I spent over a decade in the biological weapons program, a contractor to Fort Detrick, working on weaponizing fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes, trying to mass produce them, stuffing fleas with the plague, stuffing mosquitoes with deadly Trinidad virus, and then stuffing ticks with either deadly or incapacitating diseases like relapsing fever, Venezuelan equine encephalitis, rabies, leptospirosis, which is another spirochete. So it's just like Dr. Strangelove trying to make new diseases, mixing bacteria and virus in ticks with the intent of this is the perfect stealth weapon. It's poor man's nuke. You drop these insects on an enemy, it weakens the population, it ties up the medical resources, but doesn't destroy infrastructure like a nuclear bomb would. And in one report from a bean counter in the military, they said tularemia, which is tick-borne tularemia, also rabbit fever, we can kill 10,000 people at $1.33 a life.
Do you hear that? They can kill 10,000 people at $1.33 per person is what it costs them to take out each person.
So anyways, it was just, there was more to tick-borne diseases than we realized. And I began suspecting that Willie was right, given this context.
So just putting that out there, right? Again, everybody's kind of playing down this tick stuff. You know, yeah, you can go ahead and leave, bud. Not welcome here if you're going to be all uppity about stuff when I just ask a favor. Man, people these days. Anyways, so everybody that I know is saying, like, I got a buddy that goes into the woods all the time, and he uses it kind of as his gym. Like he's like, why go pay for the gym if you got the woods around you? And he comes out all the time now with ticks on him. He's like, I have to check myself all the time and wear proper clothing. And I'll tell you, if it's a hot summer and people are in there with shorts on and all that stuff, oh boy, man, oh man. And so I just recently had was able to afford to take my dog to the vet. I had a person want to help me and my wife get my dog to the vet to make sure he's okay. And while we were there, the vet was telling us that there's 1 in 13, or was it 12? It was 1 in 12 or 13 dogs have Lyme disease right now in my area. And so people are saying ticks in Tennessee are bad too. Noticed them first with my dog. One of our family friends has dogs that go outside often, and every time they've come back with ticks on them. And so you got to be real careful and know how to remove these things. They got videos on YouTube on how to remove them properly if you don't know how. But people have got to be careful this year because it seems like they're really working towards doing something horrible. I'm going to show.
All right, I'm sorry if you're.
And again, if you're, animal, if it hurts you to see animals hurting, probably turn this off. But I'm showing this because I want people to know how bad it is right now. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video.
All right, I'm sorry if you're a sensitive person, but this needs to be talked about. You guys need to share this video. This is obviously a dead moose somewhere in Canada, I believe. And it is just covered in thousands of ticks. This is the reason why it has died, because ticks will suck the blood. And when there's that many, there you go. Crazy. Now, I'm no expert, but I grew up in Canada and I used to be out in the forest. I literally had a forest out back. I used to be in the forest all the time playing manhunt with my friends. We wouldn't even look for ticks. You'd never even check for them when we come home. If you got a tick, it was a very rare thing. And now we're seeing animals with tens of thousands of ticks on them, just covered head to toe. If you guys think that this is just a natural process, you're not very smart. And the timing of this couldn't be any better. It's interesting that Big Pharma is coming out with vaccines for Lyme disease and, all this stuff to combat the ticks. It goes even deeper when top scientists at these companies go on air and talk about how they can bioengineer ticks to make us allergic to red meat. How about listen?
So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanisms.
This is what they're talking about right here. These microscopic fucking ticks that are just outbreaking all over the United States. You guys think that this is a coincidence, huh? Do you think this is fucking normal, guys? Or do you think something else is going on here? Create the problem and the solution on repeat over and over again. Biological warfare, the same thing that we saw in 2020. That's what you're seeing right now. And I'm so sick of these Satanists that control everything, that poison our fucking air, water, our food supply, that are releasing these ticks. I'm sick of these people. So when you guys are down to get together and overthrow all of them, let me know. I'll be on the front lines. And in the meantime, you guys should obviously know how important it is to detox your body from everything that they're doing to us. All right.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. Now here's the next video.
Now this might be the most ticks I've ever seen on any animal ever. That is insane. And look at the size of them. They're enormous. Huge ticks on this girl. But we just got this python out of the Everglades, and she was sitting on a clutch of eggs. We got them too, and you can see she popped this egg right away. You can see the embryo in there starting to look like a snake. It's got scales developed, so these weren't too far off from hatching. So we got her out just in the nick of time. Now this might be the most
insane stuff. So like all over the place, they're coming up with stuff that is just covered in ticks. Just covered in ticks. And I feel bad for animals, man. One thing I hate is people who abuse animals and people that hurt children and women. You know, I can't stand that sort of stuff. And I fight pretty hard to expose pedophiles in my own way with my documentaries, and I'll talk about certain subjects and things like that on End Times Talk as I go. But man, it's just, there's so much going on right now across the globe with like just the oil and, warnings of all these crazy calamities just kind of brewing. And it's like, just waiting for that one to stick, just waiting for that one to stick and be a problem, And so all these things are happening fast. It's speeding things up. The time we're living in is just absolutely insane. And, I really want to make sure people are aware that, Jesus foretold us of these times coming. He said that these kind of events would be happening when it's getting close to him coming to get us. We don't know when that's going to be, but we know because of the things happening around us that time is short. And so don't wait for tomorrow to get your life right with God. I know there's a lot of people out there, you believe in Jesus Christ, but you're struggling, and God wants to help you through it. He doesn't want you to feel alone. You're not alone. And you can even email me at endtimestalk777@gmail.com. That's endtimestalk at 777@gmail.com. And you can email me if you're struggling, and I'll do my best to chat with you. I'm not even past giving someone a phone call. It's going to come up private number or unknown number if I call you. You know what I mean? That's the only stipulation. If you leave your number, I'll try to call you. There's a couple of people I got to get calling as well today. And so there's just so much happening. And I want to make sure that people know that Jesus loves you, and that we're going to get through this. That just because times are tough, times are weird, does not mean that God doesn't have a plan as we're going through all these things. He's not left us high and dry. He's given us all the information that we need, and we just need to unite and stand united, and so that way we don't fall divided. And, I think that in these last days, if we're not standing up for something, that leaves us more liable to fall for anything. And so I say we stand up for Jesus. I say we stand up for the children. I say we stand up for truth. And I say we keep spreading the name of Jesus Christ while we have time to do it. And count it a glory of God to be able to do so, because he's provided a path to still do those things. Those people that you had, the Lord put them on your heart about witnessing to them and you didn't, and you're worried about them going to hell, man, witness to them, man, because there's people that I knew I was supposed to witness to in the past and I didn't, and they ended up passing away. And I feel like that blood will be held on my hands one day, because I shoulda, woulda, coulda, and I have lived that failure before, and I don't want other people to feel what it feels like to when you could have witnessed to someone and didn't, and then they die, and you don't know if they were right with Jesus or not before they left. So step out in faith, and God will bless you. He will help you. He will encourage you, and He will shelter you in the storm that's ahead. And I believe the rapture is soon, but I do believe that there is a storm ahead. And with that being said, may God bless you all. May He keep you today. And please don't forget to go out and change this world in which you live.